Okay, here's my workflow for creating a time lapse using images that I've taken with my Mavic Pro. The software I'm going to use is LR Timelapse version 5 at the moment, which is free, assuming that you have less than 400 frames and you can only export in 1080p, which is fine. And you'll see this is the interface here for LR Timelapse. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get this software. This uses Lightroom, integrated with Lightroom, but you can always use Adobe Camera Raw, I believe, as well. I always just use LR Timelapse. I don't import the photographs direct to Lightroom like you would do with just your photography. What I do is I make a folder on my desktop with all of the images, the raw images that I want to use in my time lapse, and then I take these images into LR Timelapse, then into Lightroom, and then let it do its magic. So this is my workflow. So what I've got here is I've got my SD card from my Mavic, just as in a SD card format. I then find the files that I want, and you can see there's lots of them. Okay, so this is something I filmed yesterday, and you can see all the images here, and this finished around about here. So I'm just going to take these images. The last few are when I was actually bringing it down from the sky. So I select these, I copy these images, so it's 185, I make a new folder on my desktop, Columbia from the sky, and I open up the folder and I paste all these images in. So there's about 4.5 gig of images that need to be exported across. I'll speed up this process. Okay, now we've got all of our images in one folder, all 185 photographs. So in LR Timelapse, obviously on the left hand side you're browsing to where they are, and as you can see here, it's not showing up on the desktop yet. So sometimes I find that closing it and restarting it will refresh the process. I'll just click onto that. Okay, so Columbia from the sky here, you'll see all the 185, so when you click it, you'll see the images start to appear in. And you can see there the intervals, shutter speed, the ISO, and all that information being processed, and it's working out some luminosity values now. Okay, so see all my images are now in the system. Then you click Keyframes Wizard. I normally, because it's a very similar light, it's not a day to night Holy Grail version, so I normally click sort of 4 keyframes. Now, because there's no Holy Grail Wizard, because I haven't changed any settings on the camera throughout the process, then you save, and then you open up Lightroom, which brings you to this dialog. And what you want to make sure is that you're in the library module with the multiple image view, so the library grid, like so, and then you're dragging the values into Lightroom, and you just drop, and you'll see all the images start to process into Lightroom, and then you click import. So you just got to add, so you're not copying or anything, you're just adding, and then you import, This shouldn't take very long. And you'll see them all adding there, and this will be in a catalog somewhere on the left, you'll see. Okay, next step is to change from the full sequence to the keyframes, and there should only be 4 images shown. So these are our 4 keyframes that we've picked. So we jump into the develop module, and this is where we'll do all of our edits to begin with, and then we will then use these settings to apply to all of our frames. Okay, and you can see the images here. First thing I always do is crop the image because we want a 1080 aspect, so we need to make sure that we're in 16:9, and you can see that that changes the image substantially based on. So what you want to do is obviously set it to where you want, position it exactly where you want. You then obviously you do all your normal edits. So for example, this here, I'm going to add a bit of contrast, reduce the highlights, boost the shadows, boost the blacks, bring down the whites, add a bit of clarity, bit of vibrance, a little bit of saturation. Again, you just get it to the image to where exactly you want it to be. I always add sharpening, pretty much that, and obviously there's a bit of noise created within the Mavic, so bring the noise reduction up a little bit, and that's my basic edit. I want to do a bit on the sky, so you can use a gradient filter, but you must use the gradient filters provided. Don't create your own. So you can adapt these in any way, but you must maintain that. So I'm going to add a bit more contrast, a bit more clarity in the sky, and a bit more saturation in the sky, and bring down the highlights a little bit more, and that just adds a nice little aspect to the clouds. Once you've done that, what you then do is then click the next photograph, but click the icon at the top, and then do the sync keyframes. Don't use the method, the normal method, because it doesn't sync the same way. Have a look at that image, see if you're happy with that, then do that on the next, and repeat the steps. And you can edit keyframes as you go, until you're at a point where you're happy with the settings. So this one here is fine, and obviously then I do it to the last image, and this will help with the deflicker method as well. So have a look at our image, and you can see the drone moved a little bit within the flight itself, which is a little bit frustrating, but we can do a bit of work on that in post-processing in Final Cut Pro. Okay, so we've got the images kind of where we want them to be. If anything, they're a little bit cold, so I'm just going to bring up the temperature a little bit and go through the process again. Okay, then you go back to the library mode, select all your images, go to metadata, and then save metadata to files, and that's the editing process done. Once the metadata has been saved, we then move back to LR Timelapse. Okay, first things first, we reload the metadata that's been applied within the keyframes themselves. We then auto transition, which will just take a moment. Okay, the next step now is to look at the visual previews, which will then process all the images based on the new data provided by the keyframes, and I'll speed this process up. Okay, so now the visual previews has been completed, and you can kind of give a run through of basically what it looks like. And so, as you can see, the drone's moving about quite a lot, but we can worry about that later. Next, the last step is the deflicker, which normally helps a lot when you're moving from day to night, etc, etc, but obviously can help in this process as well. I normally leave it at 10, and I've got it on multi-pass as well. It's not essential, but I just leave it on that, and you can see the green curve tries to follow the sort of pink curve. And if you move it more and more, it kind of tries to work it out, but 10 is deemed to be the best. For this situation, you then apply, and I'll go through that process again where it's going from image to image to sort of work out any sort of changes in exposure to work out the deflicker. And I'll speed this up. Okay, now that the deflicker has completed, we now need to open up Lightroom, make sure that we've got the whole sequence viewed. We select all, we go to metadata, we read the metadata from file, which can take a little while. And you can see all the images changed to as they should look. Then the last step is now that we go to, make sure we clicked on the actual thing that we want to export. They're all selected. We click export. We choose export timelapse, LR Timelapse. I always just leave it on JPEG because I've not got the Pro version, and I just leave it as original. I then export. And this process will take a fairly reasonable amount of time, so I'll speed this up. Okay, now we're at the point it automatically opens up the render video screen, and you can see here that force output 16.9. You just leave, unless you've got the Pro version, you can't do anything other than 1080p, frame rate 25, quality high. You can only do high because you can't do anything other than that in this free version. And then you click render video, and you'll see at the bottom there's a bar that's the rendering of the video. Okay, and now on your desktop you should have the finished time lapse, which you can view, and you can see here obviously there's a bit of wobble with the drone. There's a bit of gust of winds and so, but some nice clouds there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in Final Cut Pro to try and stabilise the footage a little bit. You can do this in Premiere and the like as well. Okay, what I'm going to do is going to make a. I'm just going to make a new event. Blumby time lapse, 1080p. Okay, and here it is here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the footage, drop it into Final Cut, drop it into my timeline, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the stabilization. Okay, so I've got stabilization here, and it's just going to analyze the footage first of all. Okay, and what you'll notice is that the image is substantially reduced in terms of its stabilized version. Once you've done that, you can also look at your color wheels if you wanted to, where you could add if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of punch to the saturation. Again, you can bring down the highlights a little bit and just tweak up the vibrancy a little bit. Once you've done that, you then just export as a master file. The sky. You then make sure your settings are on 1080p. You'll see it's not a large file. And then next, and then I just, in this case, I'm just going to save it to my desktop and save. And that should just take a moment to share, and then I'll show you the two versions. Okay, so that's shared now, and if I now look at the two, so that's the unedited version, and this is the edited. So if I look at the unedited version, you can see it's very jerky, but obviously it's in the sky, it's hovering at 400 feet, and then this is the slightly fixed and a little bit more punch added to it, and you can see that there's just a little bit less of the jerky movements, but there is some slight movement still, which can't really be helped at all. So that is my workflow. Any questions? Ask in the comments below. But I do the same process with any time lapse I make, whether it's from my drone or from my DSLR. Thanks for watching. Remember and subscribe.